Tony, thanks so much for your time. Cross country here. Greg Silver, Larry Krueger on KNBR, San Francisco Giants flagship station. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to do it. And yes, I've been blessed to be around some good ones. It starts with just recruiting them. And, I think the Giants have done that with Gavin, recruited a really good one. And then I've got, as you should, have as much respect for the Giants organization as anybody. I think with what they have, they'll improve Gavin's skill set and have him pro ball ready here pretty soon.
You need to be patted on the back, man. You just had 9 players drafted. I mean, what you've turned Tennessee into is an amazing thing. But let's talk a little bit about Gavin, because I thought it was interesting. You got him to transfer from Louisville. In fact, he had 2 or 3 real key transfers. But I noticed looking at his stat line that as a sophomore, he walked 7 times. And somehow you guys got him to totally tone down that aggressiveness. He made way better decisions this year. He drew 30 walks. He had only 27 strikeouts. How did you get him to change his approach?
Well, our third base coach is a kid I coached at TCU, Coach Josh Elander, and now he's older and experienced. And we have all the same analytics that a lot of these big league clubs do, maybe not quite as pricey, but similar. And so we were able to meet with him early on and show him exactly the statistics you were talking about, but more importantly, the heat maps and the data sheets that really drill down and show you why this is happening and when. And actually, Gavin was not only more aggressive out of the zone last year, he was doing it with a swing that wasn't as powerful, for brevity's sake, I'll say that. So it was a more compact, fundamental swing this year that was being used on pitches that were in the zone to drive. And the result you got was probably our loudest bat. Just you guys have been down there at some point during BP. Certain guys' bats sound different. Todd Helton used to go into the cages, and one of the old football coaches, David Cutcliffe, used to say when he was in his office making recruiting calls, he knew when Todd was in there without even knowing if Todd was in there because of the sound.
Wow.
Gavin had our best sound last year, often in games, but more repetitively in BP, when everyone's hanging out down on the field.
Talking to Tony Vitello here, head coach of Tennessee baseball, and of course knows Gavin Keelan very well, number 13 pick in the draft to the San Francisco Giants. So, Gavin was in a unique situation, Tony, where you guys win the national championship in 2024. Gavin is over at Louisville, and then he comes over and has to join a team that's coming off a national championship, but also be somewhat in a leadership role. How do you sort of just fit into adjusting to that kind of dynamic and making it so he was still a key player in a team that was trying to defend its title all this last year?
Yeah, it was a challenge last year to have the narrative of being motivated and together and it all being about this year. There was a lot of distractions. And one is a fun story. We had the ring ceremony, and the rings came in while a lot of the guys were out playing pro ball like Christian Moore, but we wanted to give them out to the current guys that were still around or that were on the team last year. Well, that left guys like Gavin standing there watching these other guys get rings, and they were all happy for him and wanted to see him. But there was one guy who was a little sour standing kind of on the outside of the circle, and it was Gavin. I said, "Did you get to see one of the rings?" And he kind of gave me a look, and Gavin was never disrespectful to me ever, not once, but he always has an edge to him. And he kind of gave me a look and said, "Yeah." And it was basically, get that damn thing out of my face. I want my own ring, And so that's just a little insight to who he is. What I did on the broadcast was try and not sound like an idiot. I was up there talking about draft picks, and when Gavin came up, I compared him to Ian Tinsler. Ian was a kid, not so much as a player mold, but just the attitude Ian played with. If you were on the field with Ian, you knew he was a killer. But if you were in the stands, you may not have as strong of a sense of that because he wasn't a guy that was going to bat flip like Batista or really wear it on his sleeve like some of the more emotional players in the game.
You got a lot more power out of Gavin than Louisville did. And some people consider Gavin one of the safest bats in this amateur draft. What do you think? I mean, how is he going to transition to the wood bat?
Yeah, no, it's like I said, a real fundamental swing that's driving the ball. It's not a guy that's muscling the bat through the zone. Um, to me, it's functional power is the best way to describe it, if that makes sense. So I think it's going to translate because it's not a swing that needs to be reworked, and I think that's why people call it safe. When you do look at his stats, keep in mind halfway through the year, his hamstring tightened up on him. At this point, we were winning a lot of games, so we felt like we had room for air or a cushion. And he didn't play for a little bit. And then when he did play, he DH'd, but we told him to not run out of the box. And so that really threw him out of his rhythm a little bit. He was on pace to be the Golden Spikes Award winner like Buster Posey was, basically the Heisman Trophy for college baseball. But that hamstring thing threw him out of rhythm. And yet he was still drafted where he was, which says a lot about his ability to play the game, his ceiling that he can reach, and then also just the type of kid he is, the type of competitor.
Tony Vitello, head coach of Tennessee baseball, kind enough to spend some time with us here on KNBR, the sports leader. All right, Tony, so in this age of the transfer portal, you're getting players at all different levels of experience and ages and development at the college level. So with Gavin in particular, he comes over after playing a few years at Louisville. What were the key coaching points for him, both in terms of defensively as a middle infielder and then also at the plate and adjusting some of those swing mechanics?
Yeah, I think the word adjustment kind of brings to mind that we had to adjust to each other. You want to get to know somebody. We're kind of known for letting our guys be comfortable in their own skin and kind of having the freedom to play. But we do want to harness in some things or add things. And in order to do that appropriately, you just got to get to know one another. And again, I think Gavin was the type of kid. I told Buster Posey this actually. Gavin was the type of kid that he was getting in his teammates' grills, but I didn't really know it. And that's because he'd do it in a quiet way. Like, hey, you need to handle your business here, or you need to be ready, or you need to be talking more, or you're not doing this. So it was a silent leadership that was there. And in order to encourage him to do that, we first had to know that he was even doing it. The other thing is he comes from a background where his dad owns his own hitting facility. So shout out to Keelan's Cage up there in Wisconsin. And he already kind of had a lot of set fundamentals and routines with his hitting. And I think a big key for us, different from the other school, was we let him do those things and encouraged him to kind of run with what already worked for him. Then, he sprinkled in some of our stuff, but a lot of what led to his success, I think, was just being the best version of himself. It wasn't recreating anything or any kind of magic dust or new drill that we introduced to him.
SEC baseball has gotten so good through the years, and I'm sure it has something to do with the SEC network and the money and the athletes that you guys attract out there. That being said, I mean, you know pro ball. I mean, what would you say the SEC gets him ready for? Would you? Is this a kid that you'd like to see challenged and sent to like a AA, or is it a high A situation? What do you think the Giants' plans are? Where do you think you would like to see him start? Should they challenge him?
Yeah, I think he's up for any challenge. I hate to speak for them, but just to answer the question, I think defense is kind of a key ingredient there. Maybe if he's at high A ball, there's more flexibility to rotate from second to short to third, because he could have been the best guy at any of those three spots for us. He doesn't have a bazooka of an arm, to play the left side, but his feet are good enough. His glove is good enough. And he's kind of got that good old fashioned internal clock that knows just how to beat the runner at first base. And then at second, he was tremendous for us, but he played all three. And like I said, is fully capable. Where they see him fitting in best might depend on what level he's at and who his teammates are, what other prospects are on that team in particular. I think most people see him as a second baseman in the big leagues and a really fundamental hitter. The guy that I would compare him to that hopefully fans remember is a friend of mine, Bill Miller, who played third base. Gavin is not going to be your first rounder that's a Shohei Ohtani who looks crazy impressive physically. It's not a Joey Gallo home runs, 500-foot home runs. He's just a really good ball player like Bill was. And I think he's got very, very few weak spots, but he doesn't do anything crazy well off the charts. Other than I will say, man, he had our coaches halfway through the year almost kind of laughing during BP. He came back off that injury. He's like, this guy can hit. Hitters hit, you know.
Few more minutes here with Tony Vitello. So you were just on the set of MLB Network for the draft over in Atlanta. You've coached some pretty impressive names in this game. What's the All-Star Week like for you in terms of getting to celebrate that? And I know that, even in the offseason, right, the sports is one of those worlds where there really is no offseason, but do you see that as a chance to sort of just sit back and appreciate some of the players you've gotten to coach and reflect on the work you've done over the years?
Overall, no, because the draft is going on, and right now we're trying to juggle our roster. So the stress does not stop all year, but it's at its worst right now. And then also leading up to the draft, you're praying and hoping that it goes well for your current guys, but you don't want to lose the incoming guys. Now, a better answer for the question, truth be told, is it is so much fun to be on that set. I didn't think it would be like that, but those guys really take good care of me. I mean, Harold is always, he's just a cool breeze guy, and he makes you feel comfortable. And then Greg is good, Amzinger, at what he does because he works so hard, is on top of details, just the product. So they make it easy on me, and I get to sit there at least for a few hours and just be a fan of the good players that either I recruited, didn't get, coached against, coached. So for a few hours, it is fun, but there were times I had to go off set and take calls from agents because we're trying to hold on to as good of a roster as we can for the future.
It's awesome to talk to you. Now, I was reading about Gavin's father, Chris, and how he played college baseball at the University of Louisiana Monroe and actually was drafted by the Twins in the early 90s. Second generation players. I mean, obviously this is the family business, right? And it's almost hard to measure what the value of that is.
Yeah, and you have to know the game. And I was trying to emphasize it, but the draft, it goes so quick on TV. I really wanted a moment to share with people watching there's a common theme with a lot of these guys. The holidays, Willits, you remember his dad, Reggie, and his older brother plays it. These guys know the game. They've been around it. They've had somebody mentor them. And where that's important is we got the analytic conversation now. The analytics guys often have a bigger say nowadays who they bring into the organization. But when they get into the organization, they're going to be around a bunch of old ball players. I didn't really get to watch the Derby. I still need to give away my All-Star tickets if you know anybody in Atlanta that needs some. Your guys' phones might blow up. So
yeah,
I didn't get to do any of the fun stuff, but I did get to meet Dusty Baker for the first time, and that was fun.
Very cool.
And he is funny. But you gotta imagine a kid, high school or college, gets to be around Dusty. If he doesn't know the game, Dusty's going to call him on it. He's going to check him on it. And also, the more he knows the game, the more confident a guy like Dusty is going to be in that kid's ability to go out there on the field and get it done.
Tony, we really value your time and appreciate you spending some time here on KNBR with us. So we'll let you get back to it. I know that the stress levels are extra high, as you alerted us to right now with all the chaos. So thanks so much for coming. Congratulations on all the success, and not just Gavin Keelan getting drafted, but the other 8 as well. And, Gavin, it's okay that he was a little salty about the ring. Let's go get him one here in San Francisco, and then he can show it to you.
You want a guy with an edge to him, and he's got it. Silent killer. And no, thank you guys gave me a little 15-minute timeout on it all. I appreciate it. And I've always had a lot of respect for that organization, and that ballpark is unbelievable out there. I need to get back out there and watch Gavin sometime.
Well, hopefully when he makes his major league debut, and hopefully it's soon, we'll get a chance to meet you and have you come out to San Francisco. But thanks again, Coach, for jumping on KNBR.
You bet. Thank you, guys.